Joining the conversation about being mixed in America is award-winning playwright, actor, producer, and educator Fanshen Cox. She co-founded the Mixed Roots Film and Literary Festival and the podcast Mix Chicks Chat. She wrote and performed in a highly regarded one-woman play called One Drop of Love. She is a producer and development executive at Matt Damon and Ben Affleck's Pearl Street Films, and she is one of the co-authors of The Inclusion Rider in Hollywood. In full disclosure, I will mention that I have known Fanshen since we were in high school in Cambridge, Massachusetts, so we go way back, but today she is here in an official capacity to talk about racial identity and everything mixed. Thank you so much for joining us today, Fanshen.
I am so happy to be here. I can't believe it's only been 2 years since we were in high school together. So it's amazing.
Just 2 years ago, we were wearing a cap and gown.
No, it's so special to be with you because I think we had a very unique mixed experience growing up together. And I know you're sharing some of your stories. And so I'm thrilled to be able to share kind of broader stories about mixedness. So thank you.
Let me have you start, Fanshen, with explaining some of the history of the Black mixed experience in America.
Yeah, this is really important, I think, for us to understand what came before us. Like today, we might call ourselves mixed, but how did this come about? And so in the early 1600s, when enslaved peoples were brought to what we call the United States, there were some laws that were put in place, and particularly so that indentured servants who were white could not get together with freed African people, because at that time there wasn't even really an understanding of race. There were just these different people, they were free or not, but they started to get together. And then some wealthy landowners who were called white at the time didn't like that. And that's when they started establishing rules against African slaves or freed African peoples, connecting with in any ways, friendships or otherwise, with what they started to call white people at the time. It was generally wealthy white people, wealthy European descendants, who started to decide that even one drop of Black blood made you a slave, made you able to be enslaved. And it didn't matter what your parentage said, it said that you would be enslaved. Those kinds of laws continued through, I think one that we all know about is, or we are hearing about it more, is the 1967 law, where all of these anti-miscegenation laws, miscegenation meaning mixing, so the laws that were against mixing, they all got thrown out by all of the courts across the United States in the Loving decision. So Loving versus the Supreme Court of the United States. And that was June 12th, 1967. And we always celebrate Loving Day. But there continue to be laws in the books that determine someone's access to resources in life based on what their perceived race is. And we have to remind everybody that race in and of itself is not real. Racism birthed race, and not the other way around.
You have chosen not to use any reference to race when describing yourself, not as biracial or interracial or as mixed race. You say you're mixed, but not mixed race. Can you explain to people why?
We have ample evidence that this notion of race that we've all come to believe in is actually not real. It has only stood to perpetuate hierarchies around what we think is race and to perpetuate profit based on people's bodies. So I have a really hard time using words like mixed race or multiracial or biracial, because I think that it only perpetuates this notion that we're all on this hierarchy of difference, and we're not. Having said that, I do use terms like Black. I identify as a Black woman, and that's because Black is cultural. It can signify resilience and resistance and struggle and joy and magic, and that's important.
You co-authored The Inclusion Rider, which many people will remember Frances McDormand announcing at the 2018 Oscars. The rider is meant to push Hollywood to be more inclusive in terms of people of color, gender identity, disabilities, and LGBTQ plus people. And this has also meant more stories about mixedness and multicultural America. Can you give us an update? Is the Inclusion Rider in Hollywood making everything more diverse?
I certainly think it is contributing. We have never thought of ourselves as the end all and be all or the only tool. Originally, it was created for A-listers to take into their negotiations. In terms of mixed representation, we now have some really exciting programming that highlight the mixed Black and white experience, but we're still extremely limited. That is not the only mixed experience. And I know Tanya will probably talk about the wonderful, exciting new vice president who is mixed, but she is Jamaican and Indian. This is the kind of mixed story that we haven't heard a lot of. So the Inclusion Rider is helping to push people to think beyond those categories that we've already seen and represent something else.
And Fanshen, Kamala Harris is identifying as Black and South Asian, and this has brought the topic about being mixed front and center in civic dialogue, but in a way that's different from the conversations that came up about Barack Obama being mixed. What's unique about this conversation now?
Well, certainly the fact that we have what we call in kind of critical mixed race studies, we have now a dual minority mixed person who is publicly known. She went to Howard University, so her Blackness is very much clear and she's proud of it. She also talks a lot about her Southeast Asian heritage. We want to say, look at all these ways that you can be Black. Look at all these ways that you can be mixed. And that way our nieces and nephews and the upcoming generations are going to get to see themselves and realize that their stories matter too. And then we build empathy, then we change the world.
Well, here's to changing the world, madam. Fanshen,
Yes.
thank you for all that you are and for giving our viewers some history and insight into the mixed experience as you do the best.
Thank you so much, Tanya. We'll see you soon.